Look, most people will never save $10,000. Not because they can't, but because they never get past the stage right before it. And once you hit $10,000, everything changes. My name is Peter, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, wealth building, and why some people get ahead financially while others stay stuck. If you're trying to build real financial momentum, make sure to subscribe and like the video if this helps you. Here's the thing. $10,000 isn't just a number. It's a line. A psychological and financial line that separates two completely different realities. Below $10,000, money feels unstable. You're constantly aware of your bank balance. Every expense feels like it matters a little too much. You hesitate before spending, but at the same time, you still end up spending because there's no real structure. It's like walking on thin ice. You're careful, but you don't feel safe. Now above $10,000, something shifts. You start to feel a sense of control. Not rich, not financially free, but stable. You know that if something unexpected happens, you're not immediately in trouble. And that feeling of stability changes how you think. Because when your mind isn't constantly worried about survival, it can finally focus on growth. And that's why this number matters more than people think. Before $10,000, the chaos stage, approximately 1 minute before you hit $10,000, everything feels reactive, but you're not really planning your finances. You're responding to them. A bill comes in, you deal with it. Something breaks, you fix it. An expense pops up, you adjust. There's no real strategy. And because of that, your decisions are driven more by emotion than logic. You might spend money to feel better. You might avoid checking your bank account because it's stressful. You might tell yourself you'll fix it next month. And this creates a cycle because when you're always reacting, you never build momentum. You're constantly resetting. That's why people stay stuck in this stage for years, even decades. Not because they don't earn money, but because they never move from reaction to control. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Once you cross that $10,000 mark, your behavior starts to change, even if your income doesn't. You're no longer in survival mode. You're not constantly worried about your next expense. You have space. And that space allows you to think differently. Instead of asking, how do I get through this month? You start asking, how do I grow this? That's a completely different mindset because now your decisions are no longer driven by pressure. They're driven by intention. And when you start making intentional financial decisions, even small ones, they compound over time. That's when you stop feeling stuck and start feeling in control. Here's what most people don't realize. Money grows faster when you already have some. Not just because of interest or investing, but because of behavioral momentum. When you've already saved $10,000, saving another $1,000 doesn't feel as hard. You've already proven to yourself that you can do it. And that confidence matters because confidence reduces hesitation. And less hesitation means more consistent action. Now combine that with something like investing, and your money starts working for you. This is where it gets really interesting. Your progress is no longer linear. It starts to accelerate. And that's why people who reach $10,000 often go much further. Because they built the one thing most people don't have: momentum. Here's what most people don't realize. Money grows faster when you already have some. Not just because of interest or investing, but because of behavioral momentum. When you've already saved $10,000, saving another $1,000 doesn't feel as hard. You've already proven to yourself that you can do it. And that confidence matters because confidence reduces hesitation. And less hesitation means more consistent action. Now combine that with something like investing, and your money starts working for you. This is where it gets really interesting. Your progress is no longer linear. It starts to accelerate. And that's why people who reach $10,000 often go much further. Because they built the one thing most people don't have: momentum. Look, at this stage, you're not relying on motivation anymore. You're relying on systems. And systems are what make wealth predictable. Instead of asking yourself every month, should I save? You've already decided money moves automatically. Savings happen without effort. Investments happen consistently. And this removes one of the biggest problems people face: decision fatigue. Because every time you have to decide whether to save or spend, you're creating friction. And friction leads to inconsistency. But systems eliminate that. They turn saving into a default behavior. And once that happens, growth becomes almost automatic. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't fail at $10,000. They fail way before that. They fail at $200. They fail at $500. They fail at $1,000 because they don't see results fast enough. And when progress feels slow, people assume it's not working, so they quit. They go back to old habits, and the cycle repeats. But the reality is, they were closer than they thought. They just didn't stay consistent long enough to break through. And that's what separates people who build wealth and from people who stay stuck. If you want to reach $10,000, you need to stop focusing on $10,000. That's too far ahead. It feels overwhelming. Instead, focus on smaller targets: $100, $500, $1,000. Build momentum step by step. And more importantly, make it easy to stay consistent. Automate your savings. Track your progress. Reduce unnecessary decisions, because once you make saving simple, you remove the biggest barrier: friction. And when there's less friction, there's more progress. And once that progress builds, everything starts to accelerate. If this helped you, make sure to subscribe, because most people stay stuck, not because they lack money, but because they lack the right strategy. And comment below, are you closer to $1,000 or $10,000? Look, if this video helped you see money a little differently, then don't just watch and move on. Actually take action. Because here's the truth. Most people stay stuck financially, not because they don't earn enough, but because they never learn the right strategy. They keep repeating the same patterns, the same habits, the same mistakes, and that's what keeps them in the same place year after year. But you're here, you're learning, and that already puts you ahead of most people. So, if you want to keep building that momentum, make sure to subscribe, because on this channel, we don't just talk about money. We break it down in a way that actually helps you move forward. And before you go, I want you to think about this for a second. Where are you right now? Be honest with yourself. Are you closer to your first $1,000? Or are you already moving toward $10,000? Drop it in the comments, because once you say it, it becomes real. And once it becomes real, you're more likely to act on it. Let's build this step by step.